This week on ANN, during a recent tour of the Middle East, Adventist Church President Ted Wilson prays over the construction site of a church in Iraq.
An appeal hearing is delayed for an Adventist man serving a life sentence in Pakistan under blasphemy laws after his attorneys are threatened by gunmen.
And the President of Kenya attends the inauguration ceremony of the Seventh-day Adventist Church's administrative office in the country's western region.
These stories and more coming up.
This is ANN, a service of the Seventh-day Adventist World Church.
Thanks so much for joining us this week.
First in the news, the President of the Seventh-day Adventist Church recently visited and prayed over the construction site of a new Adventist church in Iraq. Pastor Ted Wilson, along with his wife Nancy, and a small group of church leaders visited the site located in the capital city of Iraq's Kurdistan region. The three-level, 400 square metre building will have a sanctuary that will seat nearly 100 people, living accommodations for the pastor and his family, and will also have a small school. Pastor Wilson also took time to praise Kurdish authorities for preserving religious freedom and urged the Erbil Adventist Church's small but growing congregation to remain faithful. The denomination's president told the 75 congregants during a worship service, quote, "We pray for our church members in this city. We pray for the growth that is taking place. We ask that you will continue to increase your membership here so that soon this room will be too small to contain your believers." End quote. According to the Adventist Review, the church currently meets in a rented building, but its growth prompted church leaders to begin construction of the new building in October 2014. Pastor Wilson visited the property despite liquidity problems in Iraq's banking system that indefinitely delayed the church's scheduled February 6 opening.
An appeal hearing was delayed for an Adventist man currently serving a life sentence under Pakistan's blasphemy laws after his lawyers were threatened by gunmen. The attorneys were detained while they were traveling to the High Court of Lahore. According to the ACI Prensa News Agency, the two lawyers were warned of violence if they continued in their defense of 31-year-old Sahad Masih Gill. Masih, a member of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, was convicted in 2013 of sending text messages defaming the Prophet Muhammad, an act he has consistently denied. Muhammad, according to the Islamic faith, is considered to be the greatest messenger and prophet sent by God to guide humanity. In Pakistan, the most serious of the blasphemy offenses is defaming the Prophet with words or actions. People found guilty of this blasphemy must be sentenced to either death or life in prison. Masih was found guilty in spite of a trial that was defined by controversy and irregularities. In the course of the prosecution, Masih's original accuser retracted his allegations and the prosecutor failed to produce any evidence of the alleged crime. At the time, Masih's defense lawyer, Javed Sahota, said that intense pressure by extremists played a decisive role in obtaining a conviction, despite the lack of evidence. Although the Masih case deals with a false accusation, Ghanun Diab, Director of Public Affairs and Religious Liberty for the Adventist World Church, points out that blasphemy laws are fundamentally incompatible with the principles of freedom of religion or belief. Diab said, quote, "These laws tend to be used to restrict the activities of religious minorities, to limit free expression of religious thought or conscience, and, at times, to target groups or individuals for discrimination or persecution." End quote. Masih's hearing has been rescheduled for February 16.
More than 3,000 leaders and members from the Adventist Church's East Central African region last week celebrated the inauguration of the newly built headquarters of the Seventh-day Adventist Church in West Kenya in the city of Kisumu. Church leaders also welcomed Kenya's President, His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta, to the grand opening. The nation's President commended the Adventist Church for its exemplary role in transforming the country and building communities. His Excellency said, quote, "You have established hospitals, schools and other socially beneficial amenities and have uplifted communities, empowered our citizens and built our nation." End quote. Blasius Ruguri, President of the Seventh-day Adventist Church in East Central Africa region, acknowledged the work of the regional church president, Kenneth Mayina, who led the creation of the new 3-storey office complex in just 15 months. Maina shared that he and his team dedicated the new offices to the mission of evangelism and discipleship. In addition to offices, the state-of-the-art complex also includes a new media centre. The administrative offices for the Adventist Church in Kenya has only been in existence for 2 years. The rapidly expanding region has more than 300,000 members and 2,000 churches.
According to Mexico's National Institute of Statistics and Geography, out of every 100 households in the nation, 19 have a person with a disability living in the home. In an effort to address this reality, the Adventist Development and Relief Agency in the church's interoceanic region has begun a wheelchair distribution initiative for the next several months. Through the project, nearly 135 people with physical disabilities in the city of Cuautla will receive a brand new wheelchair. Martin Olvera, director of the ADRA Interoceanic Mexico region, said the idea was sparked when local church members asked for assistance for a fellow disabled church member whose family transported him in a wheelbarrow. Olvera went on to say, quote, "Soon more requests came in from different churches across the territory. District pastors and church elders were assigned to investigate the requests. While he knows wheelchairs aren't able to address all of the issues associated with a physical disability, he said, quote, "We strive to contribute to ameliorate their situation somewhat." During the upcoming months, 9 church regions in Mexico's interoceanic territory will distribute dozens more wheelchairs donated by ADRA in communities throughout 7 Mexican states.
Members of the Seventh-day Adventist Church on the Caribbean islands of St. Vincent and the Grenadines are in mourning after an automobile accident left 1 person dead and 6 injured. The accident occurred as the group travelled to an island-wide praise and worship service in St. Vincent to enjoy a day of fellowship and evangelism. The event also provided a time to celebrate major achievements in 2015 and to roll out the evangelistic plans and projections for the new year for the 40 Adventist congregations in the islands. The driver of the vehicle, 62-year-old Marilyn Henry, passed away after the automobile veered off the road and overturned. All of the passengers, including the driver, were rushed to the nearest hospital, where 2 of the passengers were treated for head injuries. Word of the incident spread quickly, so when Dermot Baptiste, president of the Adventist Church in the region, heard of the accident, he shared the news to the service's attendees, after which members held a prayer session for the affected families. Baptiste said, quote, "We all belong to a cohesive, caring and compassionate church family, and when one succumbs to death, especially under tragic circumstances, we all feel the pain, bear the loss and grieve together as we look to Jesus who understands everything about death." End quote. The church in the region has also provided counselling services for the families of the driver and passengers.
An Adventist doctor in the United States who is known for successfully transplanting a baboon's heart to a human was recently acknowledged for his contribution to medicine and mankind. Last week, Dr. Leonard Bailey was awarded one of the 50 stars that help make up the Flag for Hope. The Flag for Hope project aims to show appreciation and gratitude to individuals who have dedicated their lives to serving others. Each star on the flag is made up of the fingerprints of iconic Americans who are recognized as pioneers, role models, and leaders. The list of honorees include General Colin Powell, Supreme Court Justice Sandra Day O'Connor, philanthropist Alan Hasenfeld, and sports legend Muhammad Ali. The mission Flag for Hope is to collect approximately 3,000 to 4,000 American hand and finger impressions on a giant canvas to create the United States of America national flag. Once the flag is completed, it will be on display at the prestigious Smithsonian Institute in Washington, D.C.
The Adventist Church in Namibia officially opened its first school since the 1940s, thanks to the efforts of Maranatha Volunteers International. Maranatha sent this report.
In January, the Seventh-day Adventist Church in Namibia opened their first Adventist school in decades. The Mavaluma Adventist Primary School in Katima Mulilo is the only church-operated school in the country since the 1940s when the last school closed its doors. There are 56 students currently enrolled in pre-kindergarten through 3rd grades, and the school plans on offering more grade levels as enrollment increases. The campus was constructed by Maranatha Volunteers International during a mission trip last March. More than 50 volunteers from around the world donated time to assemble 12 one-day school classrooms, while also organizing health seminars in the community. The school was dedicated at the close of the mission project in March. The campus is located on the property of the Mavaluma Adventist Church. 6 years ago, the church started a daycare and preschool in the sanctuary, with hopes of growing the program into a full elementary school. However, fundraising was a constant challenge, and in 2013, leaders of the Adventist Church in Namibia made a formal request for Maranatha's assistance on the project. Namibia has an estimated 18,000 Adventists. Approximately 80% of the membership resides in the Caprivi Strip, or Zambezi region, where Katima Mulilo is located. To learn more about Maranatha's work around the world, visit Maranatha's website at maranatha.org.
A group of 24 students and professors from Andrews University in the U.S. state of Michigan are gearing up to conduct an evangelistic series throughout the nation of Cuba next month. In preparation for the trip, students are holding a fundraiser to provide various resources to Cuban residents, including bicycles, donkeys, projectors, computers, puppet sets, and care kits. Andrews University sent this report.
As the institution which holds the name of the first Adventist missionary, Andrews University always puts a strong emphasis on missionary projects. But for the last 4 years, seminary students and faculty have been engaged in a special project called Care for Cuba. In March, a group of 30 individuals are going to spend 12 days preaching the gospel in the communist island. The preparation for this mission involves classes of preaching and evangelism. The goal for this year is to reach 200 baptisms. During the closing event, Dwight Nelson will preach in a convention center located in the city of Santiago de Cuba that can hold up to 3,000 people. Besides door-to-door visitation and preaching series that will happen in several locations, these missionaries will also bring resources to empower the local evangelists and churches.
If you visit careforcuba.org, you will find more information. But just the bicycles, we want 100 bicycles will cost $15,000 at $150 each. Each puppet set will cost $250. What costs the more are the computers.
As the mission trip is getting close, those who already have had the opportunity of being there get even more excited about the blessing of doing public evangelism in a country like Cuba.
We say this trip has changed our lives. We thought we were going to change the folk there, but by no means. It was a give and take, and we were re-energized as well.
According to Dr. Ortiz, the coordinator of this project, the challenge requires more than just student and faculty involvement. There is an opportunity for everyone willing to do something for Cuba, and that is the appeal he makes.
Would you partner with me in bringing the gospel, a new era of Christian preaching in Cuba? So join us. Visit us at careforcuba.org and help us to bring a new day to Cuba. Looking forward to hearing from you. Thanks and God bless.
Coming up, Adventist World Radio's president shares an in-depth look into the ministry in honour of World Radio Day.
May I work in with you, young fella?
Yeah. Go for it.
That's the way you do it. Got to put a little weight on it. Well, I'll put it back up here for you.
Welcome back.
The United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization has designated Saturday, February 13th as World Radio Day. This year's theme is Radio in Times of Emergency and Disaster, recognizing radio as the medium that's able to reach the widest audience in the quickest time possible. While the Adventist Church doesn't have an official radio service for times of crisis, the denomination does in fact have a ministry that's able to reach the vast majority of the world with the gospel. ANN's Milan Medley sat down with the president of Adventist World Radio, Dal Chow, for more.
Well, welcome, Pastor Chow. Thank you so much for joining us today. As we highlight World Radio Day, can you tell me why or how radio is an effective way of spreading the gospel around the world?
Well, you know, Milan Radio, despite the new technologies that have come on board over the years, has reinvented itself over and over and over, to the point where over 243 million people listen to radio nowadays, just in this country alone. That's 90+% of the population. That's in America, let alone the world. It is so important because radio reaches people that no other media can reach them. So radio is increasingly more important for the church especially. Commercially, of course, it is too. But for us, we have a mission. And radio is probably our best means to reach places where no other means can go. So that's why it's so relevant and still will be for the years to come.
So today, as we talk about Adventist World Radio, can you tell me the scope of its ministry?
Of course, Adventist World Radio began in the early 70s to reach primarily Eastern Europe countries where communism was rampant, the Soviet Union. And from shortwave programs that we had there, we have moved into not only shortwave, but FM. Wherever FM stations become available, licenses, we go in there. And we also now use the internet, podcast, streaming, on demand, to reach people everywhere they are. So the scope is huge. We still have our shortwave programs because they're relevant for people who can otherwise will never receive us. They just can't. They don't have the resources. They live in places where we can't reach them. So it is extremely important for us to continue doing that. So our scope is completely covering the world. Is very wide. All the technologies we use, we have a lot of listeners. We have over 12 million downloads a day to our podcast. 9 million of those are just in the Chinese language alone, Mandarin. So that tells you that people with new technologies can now reach us. So that's how wide and how broad our scope is today in Adventist World Radio.
So as AWR moves forward into the future, what lies ahead for your ministry?
What's ahead? So much. The world is still our field. We have enormous amount of projects moving right now along as we speak. Expansion of the FM broadcasts we now have in India, unheard of. 5 years ago we didn't have that. Now we have. 15 large cities of India, the largest cities of India, are covered through local network FM programs now. We are planning on expanding that to 20 more cities. Ukraine, huge development in Ukraine. For the first time in history, the church in the Ukraine has acquired 9 licenses of their own. They're looking at more stations. So we're going to cover Ukraine pretty soon completely for the first time in history. Moscow, huge city. For the first time last July 1, we started broadcasting on a station that covers the entire city of Moscow on medium wave. But we have been in Russia since the collapse of the Soviet Union. We have had programs on FM stations in Russia covering the entire country. Just one more I'll give to you, which is now unfolding. You'll never think Australia is a mission field. It is. Right now, there's a huge interest in developing more radio stations in Australia, and we have proposal to expand that program tremendously in the next few months.
Thank you so much for giving us a glimpse into the vast ministry of Adventist World Radio. Thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
Coming up, learn about a new Twitter update that allows a seamless integration with the live streaming Periscope app.
But up next, eager to find a non-fattening and satisfying snack? Learn why you should reach for almonds and avocados.
All I could see was my husband's body just sinking to the bottom. That day, I will never forget. And that prayer was the hardest prayer I've ever said in my life.
When trying to lose weight, dietary emphasis tends to lean toward what you should avoid eating. What about what you can eat?
The answer, get a hold of avocados and almonds. Loma Linda University Health has more with this week's episode of Live It.
With 2/3 of our population either overweight or obese, the emphasis tends to be on what you should not eat.
Oh, man! However, when it comes to losing weight, instead, ask yourself, what should I eat? Obesity is a huge problem in America. It increases one's risk of heart disease, diabetes, arthritis, high blood pressure, cancer, and the list goes on.
So let's focus on 2 foods that we should eat if we want to lose weight: avocados and almonds.
Researchers added half of an avocado to the subjects' lunch meals and found that they felt fuller over a longer period of time and had less of a desire to eat. Not only that, but their insulin levels decreased after the meal.
A lot of people think that because avocados are high in fat, that they are fattening. But that is not necessarily so, because higher fat foods help you feel full.
You see, avocados contain monounsaturated fat. It's a healthy type of fat that our bodies need to reduce LDLs. That's the bad cholesterol in our blood.
This fruit also contains 20 vitamins and minerals. And almonds have a similar effect. The high protein, high fat, and high fiber content in these nuts help us feel more full.
In fact, the researcher found in a weight control program that those who ate almonds as a snack had longer and better sustained weight reduction than those in the popcorn group.
The study also found that people do not gain weight by eating a handful of almonds every day.
But more than losing weight, it's what these foods do to help combat the negative health effects of obesity. So how should we incorporate avocados and almonds into our daily diet?
My recommendation would be about half an avocado. So to substitute that too for maybe some of the butter or the high-fat cheese that is usually consumed at mealtimes.
And for almonds, eat a handful a day.
You can also substitute it for saturated fats like cheese and meat for added health benefits.
And liven up your diet by being creative with these foods. For example, instead of putting butter on your toast, top it with almond butter or avocado.
You can even make a delicious avocado shake with almond milk.
For a healthier take on dessert, make chocolate pudding with avocado instead of the dairy. Then top it with slivered almonds. There's your tip for the day
on how you can live healthier longer.
To find out more about Live It, Loma Linda University Health's new online health show, as well as watch past episodes, visit liveitlomalinda.org.
For this week's social media report, Angela Taipei discusses a free marketing training program offered by Twitter.
One of the keys to social media is consistency. Publishing and interacting with your audience on a regular basis helps form a community of thought. But don't be afraid of change. Often technological advances and new resources can help improve your ability to relate to your audience. New this week in social media, Periscope, the easy live stream app, is now making it possible to watch broadcasts without leaving the Twitter app. This rollout is beginning with iOS, but will soon expand to Android and the web. Remember, broadcasts are still only available for 24 hours following the live stream. But this great advancement will help you share a glimpse of activities in your church, community, or life. Twitter has also launched a free training website for marketers called the Twitter Flight School. According to the website, it's a dynamic learning experience to help you craft the best ways of integrating Twitter into your work. So if you're looking to improve your organization's Twitter presence, it's a valuable service. You'll find it at twitterflightschool.com. There are 2 tracks, executive leadership and marketing leadership. You can choose which lesson would be most valuable to you, or you can even go through both. Both of these are great opportunities in your use of Periscope and Twitter. So take a few minutes and see how you can incorporate them into your social media plan.
And finally, for today's program, let's turn to David Trim for a look at Adventist history. This week, learn about Eli Economou, who inspired the book Beloved Enemy.
This week in Adventist history, we look at one remarkable life of service. On February 9, 2012, Eli Economou died in St. Joseph, Michigan, aged 83. Born in 1928 in the Greek city of Thessalonica, she grew up in a Greek Orthodox family, but converted to Adventism aged 13 after reading Ellen White's book, The Great Controversy. Eli's conversion angered her father, and she could not be baptized until the age of 21. The story of her youthful life is told in the popular Adventist book, Beloved Enemy, which you see here. First published in 1968, it has been reprinted several times. After World War II, Eli emigrated to the United States, and after studying at Pacific Union College, she moved to Berrien Springs, Michigan, and joined the faculty of Andrews University. She taught 10 years in the Department of Modern Languages, for she was fluent in English, French, German, Italian, and Spanish, as well as Greek. But then, having obtained a PhD from the University of Strasbourg in France, Eli joined the Department of Religion and Biblical Languages and taught for them for a further 21 years. But perhaps her most important contribution to Adventism was her work translating Ellen White's writings into Greek. In all, she translated 18 books, all in her spare time. But because Adventist publishing houses thought there might be no market in Greek for Ellen White, Eli then also paid for the expenses of having all those books printed. Eli Economou touched many thousands of lives through her teaching and translating. She summarized her own life by saying that she had asked God for a few breadcrumbs, and He presented her with a huge cake. May her example inspire you as we reflect on this week in Adventist history.
Thanks for watching A&N. Join us next week for more news from the headquarters of the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
In the meantime, join our global conversation on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can connect with Adventists worldwide through more stories, photos, and videos. Visit Facebook/Adventist News, Twitter @Adventist Church, and Instagram @Adventist Church.
Our good news for this week comes from the book of 2 Corinthians, chapter 1, verses 3 and 4. The passage says, "All praise to God, the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. God is our merciful Father and the source of all comfort. He comforts us in all our troubles so that we can comfort others. When they are troubled, we will be able to give them the same comfort God has given us."
That's our program for this week. And remember, you can always visit news.adventist.org for daily news and videos. Until next time, God bless.
Take care.